Right, welcome to our English grammar class. Today we want to look at special aspects of linguistics. We want to look at branches of linguistics versus levels of linguistic analysis. We brought this topic because it has been an issue of concern and issue of confusion among linguists and among lovers of language. They don't know, or they are finding difficult to differentiate between branches of linguistic and levels of linguistic analysis. They are mistaking the two. Alright, for clarity purpose, when we talk about branches of linguistic, we are looking at how point of view or aspect or the angle through which language is being studied, the perspective, the angle, the point of view through which language is being studied. For example, we have sociology. Here, language is being studied from the point of view of society and language, bringing interaction. Okay, here sociology of language studies how language interact with society. You see, looking at factors like age, gender, region, and social class. It examines how language use varies and changes in different social contexts. Right. We also have psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics here is studied from the point of view of psychology. Here, psychologists study language, showing us how language relates to meaning, truth, and reality, bridging linguistics and philosophy. They tackles questions like how words refer to things and how meaning works in communication. You understand? Here, how our mind also processes language and how language affects our thoughts. Here is what they do in psychology of language. Okay. We also have historical or diachronic linguistics. Here, we study language from the point of history. Okay, diachronic linguistics or historical linguistics studies language change over time. Okay, tracking how sounds, grammar, and meaning evolve. It's basically historical linguistics, looking at how language shifts from one stage to another. For example, in English language, it has different phases. We have the Old English period, we have the Middle English, which is medieval English, then we have modern English. You see, through diachronic or historic linguistics, we're able to study different periods of language and what are the changes that occur in those periods. Comparative linguistics is another branch of linguistics which has to study language in relation to sounds, grammar, and vocabulary. Here it traces the differences, or similarities rather, among different languages, bringing in view differences in pronunciation in their grammar and their vocabulary to trace historical development and family connection. For example, through comparative linguistics, we're able to trace that English language is a product, it belongs to Indo-European, Proto-Indo-European group of family, alright, language family rather. So, comparative linguistics study different languages or bring languages in pair to study the similarities across them. It can also bring the differences, which will also aid language learners to learn the language, pointing their areas they will find difficulties and areas that will find it easier. Alright. Applied linguistics is another aspect of linguistic branch of linguistics which studies how language theories are being used to solve real world problems like language teaching, translation, and policy. It is super practical, focusing on things like how to teach English effectively in places like Nigeria and other countries where English is a second language. To them, it's not their mother tongue. So, through the help of applied linguistics, we'll be able to use different theories of language to solve real problems, alright, in real world. That is the help of applied linguistics. Now we have stylistics or literary linguistics. Literary linguistics studies, literary linguistics applies linguistic theories and methods to analyze literary texts, focusing on style, narrative structure, and meaning. It blends language study with literary criticism, looking at how language choices shape literary effects. Alright, here you study style and some other unique features of language. Okay, you can point out how authors use language in different ways in their literary text. Literary linguistics will help to differentiate style of one author from another author, or style of one region. For example, African people from the way the Europeans write. That is through the help of literary linguistics. Now, dialectology is another aspect of linguistics, a branch of linguistics, where language is being studied. Okay, you study how language varies across region and social groups, mapping differences in pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. It helps to track language change and identity. Alright, for example, how Nigerian pidgin differs from standard English. This is through the help of dialectology. We study, or the major focus in dialectology, where you know the difference between dialect and accent. Alright. Neurolinguistics is another branch of linguistics. We study how the brain processes language, linking linguistics with neuroscience. It explores how language is represented, understood, and produced in the brain, often looking at disorder like aphasia. Alright, how do you understand how we process language? For example, the way a child uses language is different from the way an adult uses language. This is basically the development of the brain. Alright, in neurolinguistics, you'll be able to study how the neurons work together to process language. Clinical linguistics is another aspect of another branch of linguistics, which studies or applies linguistic theory to understand and treat communication disorders. Here, these people work in hospital or in clinics because you see, how do you know that a mad person, somebody is mad? You can use through his utterance to know if he's mentally unstable or not. This is the help of clinical linguistics, because they will now apply linguistic theories to understand and treat communication disorder. It helps diagnose and manage speech, language, and swallowing difficulties in people with conditions like stroke, autism, dementia, so on. It's a blend of linguistic and speech language pathology. You understand? All right. Forensic linguistics is another branch of linguistics which studies how linguists applies linguistic analysis to legal context. Here, language and law. You know how you apply linguistics analysis to legal context, like analyzing language in crimes, court cases, or authorship identification. It helps with things like ransom notes, threat assessment, and even determining if a confession was coerced. It's a fascinating blend of language and law. Right, that is forensic linguistics. Anthropological linguistics is another aspect of another branch of linguistics. Anthropological linguistics studies how language shapes and reflect culture. All right, how language shapes and reflect culture, social identity, and the worldview. It looks at things like kinship terms, rituals, and storytelling across societies. Think of it as a mix of language and anthropology. You understand? This is the branch of linguistics that deals with these areas. We also have philosophical linguistics. Okay, philosophical linguistics is basically studies how language relates to meaning, truth, and reality, bridging linguistics and philosophy. It tackles questions like how words refer to things and how meaning works in communication. Right? These are the branches of linguistics. I hope I am able to clear your doubts and clarify you on the branches of linguistics. Anyone you don't understand, let me know in the comment section. Or anyone you want to add some vibe to it, do that in the comment section. If you have any question, let me see it in the comment section.